The city never sleeps. But on one cold October night in Manhattan, someone wished it would just long enough to get away with murder. At exactly 11:47 p.m., a black SUV idled outside a luxury penthouse overlooking Central Park. The engine hummed softly, almost like it was breathing. Inside that car sat a man with a gloved hand gripping a burner phone. And on the other end of that call was a CEO, a man worth over $200 million, a man who had everything, and yet was about to risk it all. Ethan Caldwell wasn't always powerful. 10 years earlier, he was just another ambitious analyst, grinding 80-hour weeks in a glass tower in Midtown. Sharp suits, sharper mind, and an appetite for success that bordered on obsession. That's where he met Daniel Reeves. Daniel was different, charismatic, bold, the kind of man who could walk into a room and own it without saying a word. Where Ethan calculated, Daniel gambled, and together, they were unstoppable. They launched a fintech startup from a cramped Brooklyn apartment. No funding, no connections, just caffeine, sleepless nights, and an unspoken promise. We rise together. Within 5 years, their company, Reeves and Caldwell Capital, exploded. Private investors poured in millions. Wall Street started whispering their names. Tech blogs called them the new kings of finance. They bought penthouses, drove imported cars, attended elite parties. But somewhere along the way, that promise began to rot. Success doesn't just build empires. It exposes cracks. Ethan started noticing things. Small things at first. Daniel making decisions without consulting him. Daniel charming investors and taking full credit. Daniel slowly, quietly positioning himself as the face of the company. At a high-profile gala, a reporter asked, "So, Daniel, what inspired you to build this empire?" Daniel smiled. "I believed in the vision before anyone else did." Ethan stood right beside him, ignored. That was the moment something inside him shifted. Weeks later, Ethan discovered something that made his blood run cold. Hidden financial transfers. Millions. Moved through shell accounts. Signed off under Daniel's authority. At first, Ethan thought it was a mistake. Until he dug deeper. Daniel wasn't just moving money. He was preparing an exit. A quiet one. One that would leave Ethan holding the fallout. When confronted, Daniel didn't deny it. He laughed. "You're brilliant, Ethan, but you've always been replaceable." Those words hit harder than any punch. "You built the engine," Daniel continued, sipping whiskey. "But I drive the car." Ethan stared at him. Years of loyalty. Gone. Just like that. That night, Ethan didn't go home. He sat in his office, in the dark, replaying everything. Every sacrifice. Every sleepless night. Every time he trusted Daniel. And then he made a call, not to a lawyer, not to the police, but to someone who didn't ask questions. "Is it done clean?" Ethan asked, voice barely above a whisper. A pause. "Depends how clean you want it." Ethan swallowed. No trace. Another pause. "It'll cost you." "Money isn't the issue." The man on the other end chuckled. "It never is." Back to that SUV. 11:47 p.m. The penthouse lights were still on. Daniel Reeves was inside, completely unaware that his life had just been reduced to transaction. The man in the SUV stepped out. Calm, precise. He walked toward the building entrance like he belonged there, because men like him always do. Inside the penthouse, Daniel poured himself a drink. He had already finalized his escape plan. In 48 hours, he would be gone. New country, new identity, new life. Ethan would take the fall. Just as planned. A knock at the door. Daniel frowned. He wasn't expecting anyone. Another knock. More urgent this time. Yeah, he muttered, walking over. He opened the door and froze. Standing there was Ethan, alive with something darker than anger. Something colder. Surprised. Ethan asked. Daniel narrowed his eyes. "You have some nerve showing up here." Ethan stepped inside without permission. "You were going to leave me to burn." Daniel shrugged. "Business." Ethan laughed. A hollow, broken sound. "No," he said. "This is betrayal." The room went quiet. Heavy. Dangerous. You think you're the victim? Daniel snapped. You couldn't handle the spotlight. I did what had to be done. Ethan's jaw tightened. You took everything. Daniel leaned in. And I'd do it again. And then the elevator dinged. Both men turned. The penthouse door slowly creaked open, and a third figure stepped in. The man from the SUV. Silent, expressionless, eyes scanning the room like he'd done this 1,000 times. Daniel looked confused. Ethan looked relieved. Perfect timing, Ethan said softly. Daniel's face changed. What is this? Ethan didn't answer immediately. He just stared. Years of pain, betrayal, rage, all distilled into one moment. I gave you everything, Ethan said, and you decided I was disposable. Daniel took a step back. You're insane. Ethan shook his head. No. He nodded toward the man. I'm prepared. But something unexpected happened. The hitman didn't move, didn't draw a weapon, didn't even look at Daniel. Instead, he turned to Ethan and said, change of plans. Ethan blinked. What? The hitman pulled out a small device, pressed a button, and suddenly, red and blue lights flooded the room. Sirens. Loud. Deafening. Police. The door burst open. NYP. Don't move. Officers swarmed the penthouse. Daniel dropped to his knees instantly. Ethan stood frozen, confused, terrified. The hitman stepped back and revealed a badge. Undercover. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, the officer said, cuffing Ethan. Ethan's mind shattered. No, this isn't right. He looked at Daniel, expecting shock, fear, something. But Daniel was smiling. You really thought I didn't see this coming? Daniel said quietly. Ethan's heart sank. What did you do? Daniel leaned closer. I baited you. Everything clicked. The financial transfers, the arrogance, the insults. It was all designed to push Ethan over the edge, to make him snap, to make him make that call. You set me up, Ethan whispered. Daniel nodded. You were always a smarter one, Ethan. A pause, but not the colder one. As Ethan was dragged away, everything he built collapsed in real time. His company, his reputation, his future, gone because of one decision, one moment of weakness. But karma wasn't done yet. 6 months later, Daniel Reeves stood in another penthouse. Different city, same arrogance, same whiskey glass, same belief that he had won, until a news alert flashed across the screen. Federal investigation opens into Reeves' capital. Evidence of large-scale fraud discovered. Daniel froze. The glass slipped from his hand, shattered on the floor. More alerts followed. Accounts frozen. Partners pulling out. Authorities closing in. And then a message. Unknown number. You should have just walked away. Daniel's hands trembled because he knew exactly who it was. Ethan Caldwell from prison. Turns out Ethan wasn't done. Before everything collapsed, he had prepared something. A failsafe, encrypted files, evidence, proof of every illegal move Daniel had ever made, set to release. If anything happened to him, Daniel thought he was playing chess. But Ethan, he had already ended the game. As federal agents pounded on Daniel's door, he looked at his phone one last time. Another message appeared. We rise together, remember? The screen went black. And now I want to ask you something. If you were in Ethan's position, would you have done the same thing? Or would you have walked away? Because sometimes the line between justice and revenge is thinner than we think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and tell me, who do you think really won in the end?